Hello. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I would like to warmly welcome you to today's webinar. I will be talking about teaching business English. And the way it works is the first half an hour we'll be spending on the presentation. And the second half an hour, I'll give you a chance to ask questions. So we'll have a Q&A session after that. Feel free to say hello, as some of you have been doing already in the chat. Welcome. Wow, what a wide range. All the way from California to Ontario to London, Cape Town, Romania, South Africa, back to Canada, Chicago, Vancouver. Welcome, welcome. Nice to have you, all of you here today. So, once again, warm welcome to everybody. My name is Sheila Baker, and I'm actually from Canada. My parents are from Hungary, so I also speak Hungarian, and it's so great to see all of you here. I have been teaching, for about 120 years, more like 25 years, and I have been teaching. I've taught students from all over the world, and I have been doing teacher training as well. So I'm one of the teacher trainers at the TEFL Academy. I'm also an English teacher and also an examiner. Busy but never bored. So thank you for setting time aside out of your busy schedule. We know that you're busy. All right. So as I mentioned, we'll cover the topic first, and then we'll do Q&A during the second half hour if you're just joining us. And I will just ask you to keep your questions related to today's topic. If you do have other academic questions, then you could send in a ticket to our team, and we'll be glad to answer those. All right, so let's take a look what we'll be covering today. So obviously we'll talk about business English as the title suggested. We'll look at the definition and who wants to learn that, who would be the students, who would be the teachers who can teach it, what it includes, and getting started with creating an effective work scheme. So let's get right into it. So some of the advantages and challenges of teaching business English, we'll also talk about that. Career opportunities, where to find resources, and more about the business English course itself. So let's take a look at it. So business English, when you think about business English, what comes to mind? So it's part of the ESP, which stands for English for Specific Purposes. So it's designed to meet specific needs of learners. And business students who take business English, they want to know the style that is used in business writing, business communication, orally. So, in other words, how is English used in the professional world? And this is needed to complete job applications, to talk to potential employers, create professional websites. Um, Biographies, write emails to employers, supervisors, or any kind of other job related communication. So, this webinar will provide a general guide on how to use business English and the etiquette when establishing a new professional contact. So, let's take a look further. So, who wants to learn business English? So the students generally are those who either would like to conduct business with English speakers companies, or who use English as a shared language with companies outside the Anglosphere, out of those countries where English is the common language. You'll also have many job seekers wanting to improve their business English. And in this case, because of that, the focus is much less on grammar, but it's more on the specific skills in language, like how you express yourself orally, or writing with more accuracy and fluency, the language itself, what word choices do you make? The vocabulary, the tone of voice makes a huge difference. And it's not necessarily just business people conducting business within the English speaking countries. It's also used as a lingua franca, so a common language between the countries where different languages are spoken. For example, if you have somebody from France and China meeting together, they would use English as a common language, because English already has established itself as a language of international business and technology. So it is just convenient and is popular for business people to use this as a common language. So students and job seekers will also want to do likewise. And do you think that there are more native or non-native speakers of English? Let you think about it. And if you said more non-native speakers, you are correct. Did you know that the majority of English speakers are non-native speakers? In fact, there are 373 million native speakers, so people who have English as their first language, and over a billion non-native speakers. So this means the ratio is 3 to 1 in favor of non-native speakers, meaning that for every native speaker, there are 3 non-native speakers worldwide. So, in other words, if communication in English takes place, it's most likely to take place between non native speakers. English is the most spoken language, but it's only the third most spoken native language. If you're wondering what the other two are, can you guess? The first one is Mandarin Chinese, is the most spoken language, and number 2 is Spanish, and you see number 3 is English. But English has become a common language of even the internet, some of the literature, and because of globalization and technology, also people wish to conduct business in English. It is a shared, as we mentioned, it's a shared language. And many job seekers are also interested in learning business English as a result, as we mentioned. And let's take a look at our next slide. So, who can teach business English? It is, as we mentioned, it's a specialized area. So it's good if you have some specialized training. It's not always necessary, but it is good to have that. So if you are a TEFL teacher, it's and you might choose to teach English as a foreign language to speak as to a specific age group or schools, then you might want to specialize in that. And then some of the schools and organizations offer these classes that are EAP classes, English for Academic Purposes. And if you know that you're going to have a lot of engineers, for example, in your class, then you can focus your curriculum on the terminology that engineers use. Another time I had students who many of them worked in the law environment, in a law office. So then we did a lot of those emails that would be common in a law office, emails and other type of writing and spoken communication. Oh. So as you know, there are many different situations you can find yourself in. So you can choose. You can choose to do this if you wish to do so. And you can do some of this with some extra research, and but it's also good to take a more specialized course in business English to be more prepared. So it's up to you how well prepared you want to be. And a common question that I get asked, well, can I teach business English if I have no business experience? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Because even though you may not be an expert, if you think about it, we often teach topics that we don't have an in-depth knowledge about it. Think about global warming, technology, medicine, right? You don't really have to have an in-depth knowledge in order to teach about it, right? Business English, though, seems to be somewhat foreign or unknown, that many teachers don't believe they can teach it, even though they actually can. So now that you know that you, as a TEFL qualified teacher, you can teach business English, let's have a deeper look at it. So what does it entail? So we looked at the definition. So let's look at the specific details. So, of course, it will depend on the kind of students you have. It's good to do a needs assessment at the beginning of the semester. But you might have students from Hong Kong, you might have a CFO from France, an HR department representative from a German company. So each class will have its own unique makeup and needs. So therefore, you might need to customize it a little bit. But these are some of the common things that you would have in a business class: writing emails, giving presentations, chatting with foreign colleagues, which is also an exam, TOEIC, similar to TOEFL, test of English as international communication. Very common questions talking to others, colleagues. You might be talking to somebody on the phone. And then I have students, if you're in a class environment, they turn away, like they turn their backs to each other, so they don't have the facial expressions. But you can also do that in an online environment. They turn away from the screen and they have to talk to each other in a breakout room, so you don't have the facial expressions. We talked about email already. It could be customers or international colleagues, so the language might be a little bit different, or participating in an international conference, which again requires a different set of skills somewhat, or giving a presentation to potential clients, customers, engaging in small talk. Now, some of these concepts might even be new. For example, my students in Korea, they tell me if I talk to somebody in an elevator and I don't know them, they think I am strange. Or if I say hi to somebody on the street and I don't know them, they think I am crazy. Whereas in Canadian and American and some of these other English-speaking countries, this is quite the norm. Talking about the weather, small chit chat, even before an interview, right? Establishing uh, uh, a relationship or common ground with the interviewer. So it's actually good to teach these skills: how to engage in small talk, carry on a conversation, how to conduct interviews is another skill, or how to respond to interview questions, negotiating a contract Again, the vocabulary here will be very specific. There will be a lot of terminology, making suggestions for a project, debating topics in a meeting, how to do that in a polite way, or even participate. And if there's a complaint, customer complaint, customers, they tend to say something if they want to complain, not just when they have something nice to say. So how to respond to that, right? So depending on the students you have in your classes, you might also include more specific topics, as I mentioned, terminology related to engineers, different aspects of business, paperwork. If you have students who want to work for an accounting firm, how to do debit and credit columns, or if they do tax returns, again, that has its own specific terminology, job roles, and communication skills. And sometimes you might be surprised that you don't have to teach anything business related, but the focus is more on the social communication side of things. And many business people need to communicate regularly with people from other countries. So, using English as their language of communication, they need to have small talk in a social setting or communicate in a business context. And of course, we're not just talking about the words, we're talking about nonverbal communication as well. Which one do you think is more influential, verbal or nonverbal? If you said nonverbal, you are correct. The words themselves are only carry a weight of 7%. 93% is nonverbal. So your hand gestures, your facial gestures, the tone, the intonation, your speed, your rhythm, speech, all of these things are also influential in communication and need to be taught to students. So there is quite a bit involved, but there is no need to feel overwhelmed because we can do this. So let's see how to get started. So do a needs analysis first. So once you have students, just simply ask them to fill out a survey, whether on paper or online. What is it that they need? Why do they need this course? What do they want to get out of it? What are some of the skills that they want to practice? And how do they really want to achieve these goals? So simply just ask them that, and they will tell you. They will tell you because they do know it, and we as teachers need to know what it is that they need. And make the classes student centered, right? Don't do a lot of talking. We need to reduce teacher talk time and thereby allowing students to increase student talk time. And try to create that friendly atmosphere because language teaching is different than any other teaching. We're not teaching chemistry or history or biology where the teacher just lectures for a long time and the two students take notes and there's an exam. No, no, no. In language teaching, it's different because we want our students to do more of the practice and eventually produce the target structures that we want them to use. So you want this to be reflected in your teaching style, in your activities, in your lessons, make them engaging so that they can get involved and give them a chance to use the language appropriately. So we need to plan for this. We need to build this into our lesson to give them a chance. So the choice of materials is also important. You want to choose something that will be appropriate not only for the level, but also their interests. So I also ask questions. What is your favorite movie, or what is your favorite book, or what news items are you interested in? I ask that in the needs analysis, and that gives me an idea of what they're interested in and what they need to work on, what kind of materials to choose. You can also ask them, do you ever talk on the phone in English? What do you find challenging about learning and speaking English? What is easy for you? Then we know that we don't need to focus on that. Do you speak English more often with native or non native speakers? And one of my students said, teacher, I can now understand people who have an accent better because of this course. So we get real results and happy students. Another question you can ask, do you often use English at work or in your leisure time? Okay, this is again, there's going to be a different focus. WH questions, who, what, when, where, why. You can ask those. Past and future use. Which category matches each question? Do you need to know English to use in meetings or conferences? Do you speak English do you use English to talk to colleagues? Have you studied English in the past? How long? What level have you achieved if you have taken a course? And who do you usually speak uh, English with? And be businesslike, but keep things fun and friendly. And that will help our students to get the most out of the course. And even your presentations need to be businesslike because you want to model this for our students. Okay. And they need a lot of encouragement, just like most of us do. And you can also have include some humor when it's appropriate, and try to keep the classes high energy. Make sure to give them lots of speaking time, writing time, conversation time in every lesson, and have regular intervals scheduled. Okay. And we want to avoid those long grammar lessons. That's the old style of teaching, and it's not very effective. So it's better to focus on meaningful communication and getting the message across. And of course, we're talking to adults, so we want to keep their age and interest in mind, choosing the materials appropriately. We don't really want to use anything childish, and then the skills, the necessary skills. When choosing materials, it's also good to include authentic materials because that students can relate more to those. Okay. You can even ask them to bring in their own materials. One time we asked our students to bring in mistakes, and you would be surprised what they came up with. They took pictures and they clipped articles out of newspapers. Another time we looked at titles in newspapers, and we looked at the use of articles because the articles are often left out in titles to shorten them. And then their job was to put the articles back in, whether it's the, or un, or even some. Right? And that was quite challenging for them. In another class, one of the students complained, teacher, I got a 0 on this. I did not get it right. But then they got another chance to redo it. So that was good. Okay, so always tweak it to their needs, and be flexible. Okay. Also anticipate any problems. If you know that there might be an issue coming up, anticipate it and try to be proactive about it. For example, if you know that there might be a cancellation, something might be canceled, try to reduce the stress. Negotiate a cancellation policy with the company in advance, and then ask them to inform you. What would be a good time frame to inform you? 24 to 48 hours in advance, so then you can be more prepared to deal with it. So that really helps. Okay. If you have a class, let's say 6 to 8 people, still try to create activities that will work in pairs, smaller groups, or one-on-one, right? Again, to help them get the most out of it. And also, sometimes students need to cover for an absent coworker or somebody who is sick. So you could be teaching ESP sooner than you think, English for specific purposes. And even if you have never taught it before, don't worry, you will be fine. Just prepare your lesson plans effectively, just like you would prepare a general ESL lesson. Just keep in mind that they do have a pretty good command of English. They tend to be higher intermediate, lower advanced students, or we're not dealing with the beginners or the low intermediate students. So keep your level of activities challenging for them, right? Don't keep it too simple because then they will not be challenged enough. So let them express themselves. Pick appropriate environments, like if you're doing a financial topic, you can do banking or insurance, finances, um, how to deal with accounts. And don't try to prepare the lessons too far ahead because you might have to adjust your lessons depending on how the students respond, because you'll get to know your students during the first few classes, and then you can change your activities accordingly and according to their interests as well. If you have trouble designing your lesson plan, just think about talking to an ESP specialist or a teacher who have taught business English before, and you'll be amazed how much they can help you. And research the area or the business that you will be teaching. Look for introductory text of a first year university. Buy a few secondhand books to help them express themselves. And that way, that will help you to be more prepared and more confident. And also take into account the characteristics of adult students. For example, you can incorporate their life experiences into your lesson plan and make it relevant so that they can apply what they're learning in the near future. Your students will be motivated. They will be internally motivated, and your lesson plans should be challenging enough for them. And include business correspondence, negotiations, the specialized vocabulary that we talked about. Listening skills are so important, both just audio and picture, like to imitate video conferencing. And as these are integral parts of a business environment. Let's take a look at the advantages. So you do have a lot of variety and flexibility when it comes to these classes. So you can use different formats, as we mentioned, different groupings, different settings. And another advantage is that you can learn a lot from your students because they will tell you about their business world and how it works. So let them teach you too. There's opportunity for skills development. A teacher can be developed seeing as your students might be required to perform tasks like giving presentations or using specific online skills like completing applications or insurance forms online, for example. There is a chance for language skills development for you. Your language knowledge can improve exponentially because you have to function in a professional context. So you can step up to the plate. It's an opportunity for you to develop professionally. And as we mentioned, you will have The students will be very motivated, so that's a good thing. You don't have to motivate them like sometimes you do with younger folks. And you probably don't have to deal with discipline issues either, right? Not likely. Okay, so they're motivated, they're professional. And then one last thing to mention is creativity, right? So you can be as creative as you want to be with these students. Now, some of the challenges, because they might be working, some of the classes might have to be in the evenings or weekend. And because they usually have had a long day at work, you have to keep them motivated in a sense to by including challenging materials. And attendance can be an issue because sometimes they do need to miss class, so you need to have a buddy system for them to help them catch up or put something online so that they can catch up on the material. And then the mixed level can also be an issue because you can get the lower and the higher level. And again, you can challenge the stronger ones, and then you can also include other activities for the weaker ones. You can put them together, one weak student with the strong student, so the strong student can teach the weaker one, and the weaker one can learn from the stronger one. Or you can put the weaker ones together and the stronger ones, and then give them different activities depending on their level. All right. Another thing, sometimes, let's say if you go into a company and you're teaching co-workers that need to include their English, some of them might be managers and some of them might be the non-managerial positions. So that can also influence the group dynamics. So you kind of have to keep an eye on it and be proactive about it to manage that there are no nothing develops, but we can focus on language learning. And then there are, of course, career opportunities with so many people wanting to learn English. Um, you will be qualified to teach this course, and you can either do it online in a corporate setting, going into the organization, privately tutoring, or face to face as well. Where to find resources? Well, there is, of course, the TTA Teaching Business English course, and there are blog articles. The company itself will provide you with material if you are going into Xerox, for example. British Council has really good resources. And one good website I recommend is One Stop English. They do have a ton of material, so it's worth checking out. And then we mentioned authentic materials. So, of course, there's the New York Times if you focus on American English, BBC if you want to focus on British English. A company's annual report itself might be a useful tool for you because it will have a lot of the terminology that you need. TED Talks are very helpful. Emails. Let the students bring in their own emails, and if they are willing to share it in the class setting. Google pie charts are definitely helpful. The stock market, I find analyzing that is really helpful. And there are a lot of YouTube videos if you do a specific search. And then the Teaching Business English course. Of course, if you're watching this webinar, chances are that you've already enrolled on our Teaching Business English course. If you have not yet done so, let me tell you a little bit about it. So the online course consists of 3 mandatory units. Each unit test is assessed online, and then there is an end of course assignment if you take the course separately from the main course. And the 3 units are the overview of teaching business English. The second one is techniques and activities for teaching business skills, and intercultural awareness, which is also an important component, and teaching receptive and productive skills. Receptive being listening and reading, productive is speaking and writing, so the four skills. So it will help you even to be even more prepared to teach business English. Okay. So because we live in a globalized world, English really has become a primary language and by far the most dominant language in the global workforce. And as we mentioned, even if it's not the official language, people do often use it. So it's worth exploring. Some tips going forward: do your homework before your students arrive. Go with the flow, but keep an eye on the aims of the lesson. Revise the aims of the lesson before and after, and make sure to have boundaries. Okay, so so just don't hesitate if you're thinking about it. Don't hesitate. This is a great chance to get involved, and it's very rewarding to see the students improve. And all the previous webinars are available on our YouTube channel. And as I mentioned, if you have further questions about other topics, please feel free to send us a ticket to tutor support, and we'll be glad to help you out. And this time, I would like to invite any questions you may have. Just put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. And I would like to mention, thank you for attending, of course. And I would like to mention this, that at the end, I would like you to complete a short survey to help us see how we did, what went well, and if there's anything we can do to make this even better for you. So I'll just put that in the chat for now, and I'll ask you to complete this at the end of the webinar. It will just take you a couple of minutes. Thank you. All right. All right, so Munshi is asking, is it a good idea to take up TEFL Business English course, or is it beneficial to opt for TEFL Young Learner courses over the previous one? Well, either one is fine. It depends which one you prefer. It's really your preference, right? What do you enjoy working more with adults, or do you like to work more with kids and teenagers? Right? It's really a personal preference, so there's no right or wrong answer to this one. Yeah. Okay. Yes, you're welcome. Any other questions you may have? You are most welcome. And do you know of any online platforms that employs business English teachers? Have you heard of Dave's ESL Cafe? That is a good one to check out. It has been around for a long time, and they do post worldwide jobs worldwide. If they're looking for someone, that would be the one that I would recommend. Otherwise, I just recommend checking out the actual organizations to see if they're looking. If there's one specific one that you're trying to get into. And British Council, I mentioned. British Council has really good lesson plans specifically. Okay, let's see another question. Are there more career opportunities teaching business English or EFL for younger learners? Well, the EFL field is definitely a bigger umbrella field, so you would have more chances because business English is more of a specific area. It's like preparing people for the IELTS exam. Not many people want to take it, right? So it's a smaller group. EFL would be a bigger group, right? But it doesn't mean one is better than the other. It's just a different size. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Okay. All right. And then there's another question about keeping boundaries. What I mean by that? Yeah, I mentioned that. What I mean by that is it's okay to be friendly with students, but we don't want to be overly friendly because then they they may misinterpret it, and then they think that you're their best buddy, right? We don't want that in a teaching setting, right? We don't want to go out for drinks with them and stuff like that. So it's okay to go out like for dinner at the end of the course and to bring closure to it, but we don't want to make it a routine. Even when emailing, you want to keep it professional, so you want to use formal language. um, for example, if you're writing an email, this is to inform you that there has been a change in our upcoming agenda. Make sure to which one would be better? Make sure to review it, or make sure to get into it, right? Like the get into it is too informal. We don't want to use that kind of language. We want to keep it professional. We want to keep it formal language. Otherwise, the relationships can be blurred, and we don't want that. Great question. Thank you. Next. All right. Yeah, I've had one of my students write me an email, and he did not know how to use formal language. I returned all the assignments, and this student didn't get his assignment back for some reason. I don't know, something was going on with Google Classroom. But anyway, he's from Japan, and he wrote me an email. Dear teacher, all the students got their assignments back. However, I did not get mine back. What's wrong with you? So the what's wrong with you was completely inappropriate, and don't take it personally. They don't mean to hurt you, right? They just don't have the English sometimes to properly express themselves. So I let the student know. I let the student know this is not appropriate, and what would be a better way to say that. Like, has something happened, or could you clarify that, or just to say it more politely, because this is not something that the students can learn out of a textbook, right? Where do they learn things like that from? They need exposure, right? So we do need to expose them to authentic materials where they can pick up these phrases, and we need to zero in on these phrases. And I actually do categories. This is informal, semi formal, and this is formal. For example, if you're doing an email and you say sincerely, what would you say the category? That would be formal. How about with love? Informal. Regards. Kind of in between, right? Regards is in between, so it's semi formal. So, which one would you send to the landlord if you're writing a letter? A landlord would be regards because you know the person, but you're not best buddies, right? To your cousin, probably with love. To a manager of a company, a complaint letter, probably sincerely, right? So I do these things. And I also how to agree and disagree, things like that. Again, we put them in categories and then put them in level of formality, for example. All right, any other questions here? All right, Jolyn, I noticed that you can specify that you teach BE or whatever specialty. That and okay, I'm not sure what the question is here. Maybe this is just a comment, Catherine. Okay, yeah, I think it's a comment. Okay, Yeah, feel free to watch the recording again for sure if you would like to uh, get some more ideas. And we still have another 13 minutes for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Have I missed any questions? Let me know. Feel free to put it in again if I missed your question. Okay. And just again, I want to emphasize that this is really an enjoyable area to teach. You can make it a lot of fun and interactive. You can give students a project. For example, we were doing a marketing unit with my EAP students, English for Academic Purposes, which is somewhat related to teaching business English. And I asked them, we were looking at subliminal messages and assignments. So they had to look for things like Amazon. You know, there's that little smiley face, the Amazon logo. You know what it stands for? They're trying to make you happy, but also they have everything from A to Z. The A and the Z are connected. So that is what is called a subliminal message, kind of these hidden messages, right? So they have to find that. And then I also gave them a project. So please come up with a product, and I want you to market this product. So for example, one of my groups came up with this chewing gum. If you if you buy this gum, you give it to a person, that person will fall in love with you. So you can see where their mind was. Getting close to Valentine's Day here, and they had to come up with a slogan, and they had to come up with the price. I think it was $99, pretty expensive chewing gum. They had to find the target audience, which was, I believe it was teenagers. They had to design a marketing campaign for it. They had to advertise it. They had to come up with a budget for that. So the whole 9 yards, they really enjoyed that project, and they did get a lot out of it. And you can make it fun. It doesn't have to be boring. All right. Do we have any other questions? Naomi asks, can we get more specific jobs if you do have a business degree? Well, that certainly opens up a few more doors for you if you do have that. Certainly, it's not a requirement, but if you do have it, absolutely, because then you've got all those skills to put on the table as well. So you can certainly mention that during the interview, and yeah, the companies usually give you credit for that if you have something like a degree, because you've got these skills already that I mentioned. You already know how to communicate in the business world. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to ask away. And also set the expectations clearly for the students. So tell them this is what we'll be doing in this unit. Tell them that there's going to be a test at the end of each unit. So set the expectation clearly. And you can have small components within the unit, so you can break it down so that they know what will be the assignments, how they will be assessed. I usually provide them with a rubric as well, which they really like. And at the end, they usually get some kind of a certificate. So kind of brings closure to that, and then there's that sense of accomplishment. All right, I think I saw another question coming through. Let me see. On mixed levels, does it mean intermediate students can be made with advanced students in the same class? Yes, yes, because Sometimes these courses are non-credit. So non-credit meaning anybody can apply for these courses. And the college or the university or the school that provides these courses may not have three separate business classes. So you can maybe have them all together in the same class. So as I mentioned, what I do is identify the lower and the higher level students. And when I'm pairing them up, I have one higher level students work with a weaker student, which is really good for the weak student because the weak student can learn from the more advanced student. It's good for the advanced student too, because when you teach something to someone that really boosts your confidence and the knowledge that you have, it gets also reinforced. So it's also a speaking activity for them or writing too. So they both get to practice. But another thing I do is I have, let's say you have 12 students. So you've got 4 and 4 lower students and 4 and 4 higher students. So I have 2 lower and 2 higher groups. So I might give them let's say the same text, but the lower students will look for like a lower skill, like a simple past. Whereas the higher students will look for like present perfect, which is a higher level verb tense. So you can have both of those in the same text, but they just look for different things. Or the words that they will look for. Obviously, the lower group will look for words that they know to use those words. The higher group will look for higher level words. So you can make it work. You can make it work as long as you don't have like 6 different levels. Then that's a little bit challenging. But if you have lower and higher, then you can make it work. Yeah, and mix up the students in different groups. Sometimes it's okay to have a lower, medium, and a higher level in one group because then they each can contribute in their own way. So that still works. It is still fine. All right, another question has come in. Do students travel to your class or do you travel to their place of work? If you're traveling to place of work, or do you suggest we bring teaching or utilize online slides? Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes I go to the organization where I'm asked to teach, like a transportation company, for example. They asked me to come in, and their English was not that great. Yes, they knew the grammar. Yes, they knew some vocab, but they did not know how to communicate effectively. So we especially had to work on their speaking skills. Sometimes it's the opposite. If they can speak, you can see they can speak really well. Sometimes they have trouble writing, expressing themselves. So then we had to work more on the writing skills. And sometimes they come to you, they come to your college or the school where you teach, or sometimes it's in an online environment. And then you can have people from all over the world, just like today. And when it comes to teaching material, it's good to have it online. Like I have all my materials on Google Classroom, which is great. The only thing is if the technology doesn't work, if there's interruption in the Wi-Fi, let's say, you may not be able to connect. So it's also good to have it on a USB, as a backup. That's plan B. And if that doesn't work out, the alphabet has 24 letters. If you go from plan A to plan B and it doesn't work, you got to have a plan C, which is the hard copy. It's also good to have hard copies as a backup, which you don't have to use every time. I only use the hard copies if it's absolutely necessary, just not to kill too many trees, right, to save the environment. But students enjoy doing a lot of things online, right? They can manipulate the worksheets. There's liveworksheets.com. That one is really good because students write in their answers and then they can check right away how many they got correct, and they get this huge mark like 9 out of 10, like a teacher, as a teacher would write all in red at the top. So I recommend using that website, liveworksheets.com. Thank you for that question. And also, if you're thinking of going overseas, don't assume that the internet is going to work, right? Always have some books, some materials on paper, or ask the school. But in case the school doesn't have materials, then make sure you have something as a backup, because some of the schools don't have a reliable internet, or they may not have internet at all. So don't just count on that, but have something like a book or hard copies. Okay, are there any business teaching books or methods that you recommend? The ones that I like are the ones that I mentioned. The British Council has good ones. The only thing it uses British English, obviously. So the other ones I like is IELTS preparation materials. So IELTS Up has good materials, and it is quite high level. So I'll. Would you like me to put that in the chat? IELTS Up is a really good website. It has a lot of academic words that the students need. It's not specifically designed for business teaching, but I find it's really helpful because the skills are really high level. The uses a lot of academic vocabulary, and then the readings are taken out of articles like the National Geographic, those kind of articles. And if students are able to read that, that means they're able to perform at a first year university. So which is really good for a business course. And they've got great listening as well, and it's a very well organized platform. Yes, there it is. So I shared it with you in the chat if you can see it. And it also has great topics like when it comes to speaking, they have topics like travel, which is a common topic, friends, technology, education, weather, environment, health. So all of these can be related to the business environment. So I really like that website. I have used it extensively. All right, we got another minute to go. Thank you all for all these great questions. We are certainly glad to have you here. And once again, I put in the survey. If you could complete that, it will take you a couple of minutes. Any last minute questions, burning questions, your little heart desires to have an answer to? Feel free to ask away. Otherwise, if not, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We hope you got a lot. You got a lot out of this webinar. We've got other great ones coming up. Feel free to attend. Uh, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Once again, thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.